Hi everyone, I'm Rachel Tessman from stampyourartout.com. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator from Andover, Minnesota, and I am here to bring you a non-live paper crafting class. I'm so sorry that I was not able to be live yesterday. Things got scheduled and that's the way life goes, right? So I was dying to share with you an idea that I couldn't share with you yesterday. And I couldn't pre-record it in time enough to share it with you yesterday at the live time. So you're seeing it a day later. Anyways, I hope that you enjoy the cards that I have to share today. They're based on a favorite set of dies that I haven't played around with much and I just loved when I saw in the new catalog. So I'm going to play with those dies along with some pumpkin dies, and we're going to have some fun making some cards. So again, I'm Rachel Tessman from stampyourartout.com. And here we go. So let's go down onto the desktop here. These are the die sets that I was referring to. Let me zoom out just a tad so you can read them. We've got the rustic pumpkin dies, and the reason why I love these is because they have these little sections in here that emboss and make a really cool indentation into the pumpkins. So we've got a couple different pumpkin sizes. We've got the stem. We've got some of those fun little frilly things that come off the pumpkins. And then these are dies that frame some images from the stamp set that coordinates with it, which we're not using in the first card, but that's okay. I have got a couple other samples where I used one of the images, one of the words in there. And then, so you'll want to get the stamp set anyways, because it coordinates. And then the other set of dies that we're using is the Labels Aglow dies. And these dies are meant to coordinate with some other stamps. It's always great when you can buy stamps with dies because you typically save 10%. But I'm playing around with mixing and matching today, and I hope you're okay with that. We're going to be using this one here and this one here because it just kind of brings a focal point to the project that we're going to create. And for the other set of dies, we're going to be using those. So we'll set these aside. We're going to bring in some cardstock here. And we're going to start cutting for our card. This time I'm not showing you the card ahead of time, am I? What? What's up with that? We're going to cut down in this direction. So we're going to cut vertically. We've got an 8.5 by 11 piece of cardstock. We're just cutting it in half in this direction. So half of 8.5 is 4.25. And then we're going to rotate one of these pieces and we're going to score it at the halfway point. So half of 11 is 5.5 inches. So we're bringing it to the 5.5 inch mark, and we're going to use the light blade now and we're going to score. I've marked my blade with the word score just so that I don't screw up at some point and accidentally cut. This is my scoring blade. So now we've pressed pressed an indentation into the cardstock here. It's broken the fibers. It allows us to crease in a nice straight line, and I love using my bone folder because it emphasizes the crease, makes it nice and crisp. We're going to take this other piece here because we want to have another layer on top, and this time we're going to go 3/8 of an inch smaller in both directions. So when we zoom in here, here's the 5.5 inch mark. We're going to go 1, 2, 3/8 smaller. So that's going to bring us to 5 1/8. Whoops. And then we're going to go in this direction 3/8 smaller. So at 4.25, 1, 2, 3, that's going to bring us to 3 7/8. Now this piece we're going to be die cutting. It's going to be a top layer. We're also going to die cut this piece here. This one we've already die cut. I'm going to give you a choice. You actually could choose between Parakeet Party Green or the Granny Apple Green. Now in my finished card I used the Granny Apple, but I had already cut these for another project which I ended up not using. But you can see here with the coordinating tape, this is washi tape, it's glitter washi tape, that either one of those greens would do just fine with this. In fact, even Old Olive goes really well with that green. So we're not going to die cut that piece here because we've already got it set. And then we need some suede. So these two little guys here, I should have looked up the name of them before I did my video. Anyways, those are already die cut. We're going to die cut this one, and then these two will go onto that layer. So since we're talking about die cutting, why don't we just dive into that step, and we'll do that right now. We're going to bring in the Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine. So we're going to bring in our platforms here. This is our base platform number 1, our die adapter plate number 2, cutting plate number 3, and then between that number 3 and this number 3, we're going to place our cardstock. And for this one, I'm going to go ahead and use some Post-it notes or Post-it tags, you know, something sticky that removes. We're just going to set it up so this is connected in the middle. These two dies here are connected in the middle. And then we're going to have them connected to the cardstock. So you can see now when I move them, they move together. We're just going to place that inside, and I'm going to make room for the other two pieces here. Whoops. So we're going to place that here about at this spot. That looks pretty good. And we'll just tape it to the actual cardstock now. Now let's take our pumpkin and set that in there. It doesn't really matter if that shifts on us. It's okay. We don't have to sticky tape that down. And then we've got our stem. Place this last cutting plate on top. And make sure everything's sandwiched nice and tight and crank it through. And I'm just going to reverse and bring it in the other direction just to make sure we give it a good cut. And check this out. So again, you see the way this die has impressions in it? This is so amazing. I just love that look. Isn't that gorgeous? And it almost like deepens the color. It does like a, I don't know, it does something to the fibers of the paper where it just, maybe it's the shadow. I don't know. It looks great. And there's the stem. Same sort of thing. Now when we peel this off, you're going to see a bunch of little tiny dots left behind. And that is quite all right. We're going to peel this one off, and you can see what it looks like here. Now, all of them are not out of there. So I'm going to stick this back on here because I think it's easiest when the die is still in place, a detailed die like this. If it's still in place, then you can take your die brush adapter and attach it to your Take Your Pick tool. And we'll just set this aside, and you can just go like this over the top, and it will remove a bunch of those tiny little dots. You can see they're starting to come out here. This die brush does come with like a little foam pad to stick, you know, to put your item down on top of. I just never use it. We're making a Halloween card. So I decided to bring in another set of dies. Yes, 3 sets of dies, but these are so fun. Scary Silhouette dies. They have these adorable bats, and we're going to be die cutting a few bats as embellishments for the card. So we're going to take a couple of the small ones, and we're going to take this medium one. And die cutting them onto black cardstock, it would just kind of like disappear in the background of the black cardstock background, right? So instead, we're going to make our own little glitter paper or glimmer paper. You can either use the scrap that was left over when we cut for the card base, or you can get a smaller scrap of black because you really only need a tiny bit. We're going to bring in the washi tape that I had referred to before, and we're just going to put down a couple strips here. We'll do it in this direction. Washi tape tears with your fingers. Very easy to use. There we go. And now we're going to die cut some bats. We're going to have glittery bats. Before we do that, let's prepare our Highland Heather cardstock. Now this cardstock, we need 2 layers that are the same. So here is our base of our card. Here's the top layer, and in between we want to have something that just gives us a nice thin border of light purple. So instead of 3 7/8, we're going to go to the 4-inch mark, and then instead of 5 1/8, we're going to go to the 5 1/4 inch mark. So we're going 1/8 of an inch bigger than the last dimension that I just gave to you which is 1/4 of an inch smaller in each direction from the base when it's folded. So these two layers are the same. When we put them on top of this base, you can see that they're 1/4 of an inch different. But when we place them in the middle, you can see 1/8 of an inch of color all the way around. And then they're just 1/8 of an inch different from this layer, which gives us a 1/16 of an inch layer all the way around. And you can see such a gorgeous look to have that nice thin purple around there. Okay. So what else goes with the dies? This stamp set. So if you have the dies, you'll want to have the stamp set. This is called Scary Cute, and you can see that there's fun little cute trick-or-treaters in there, and you've got a scene, you've got a haunted house, a cat. This frame die will cut out these sentiments. So we're going to take the boo and the bats and our Memento black ink. And we're going to stamp on one of these layers because that's going to go on the inside of the card. So let's stamp some bats. I didn't put my labels on my stamps. I also didn't dress up for this video, did I? I'm doing this really fast on the go because my kids are going to come home from school in about an hour. And I really wanted to share with you this fun card today. There we go. Boo! It's not too scary because it's not a really big boo. It's just a small boo. It's a big pumpkin on the front and a small boo. All right, now let's grab this layer and play around with it with our washi tape. So here's our washi tape again. Comes in 4 different colors, and we're just going to start taking strips of it. I think I'm going to start in the middle with maybe like orange. I don't know. Start from here and go down about 3 1/4 inches or so. Just as long as when this is over the top, it will cover the top and bottom of that washi tape. And that looks like we were lucky because, you know, we should have gone maybe a little bit longer. We'll go a little bit longer on this one. So put them right next to each other and tear. And we're just going to keep doing that. We're going to repeat that with all 4 colors. As you get further towards the sides, oh, this one I'm not going to find the starting point. As you get further towards the sides, you can taper down and not make them as long because, see, we're getting into a smaller space there, right? We only need it to be so high. So after the purple, we'll go with the orange again. And with the magic of being able to edit a non-live video, I've finished taping with the glitter washi tape. Got that all set up and ready to go, and you can see the sparkle through that little window. I've also die cut our bats, so I've got those set to go. Let's see here, there's still one in here. Very fun. We made our own glitter paper. It would be pretty expensive to do that with a whole sheet, but, but there we go, those are set. Now let's do another step here, and that is to add a bit of shading to our pumpkin and our stem. So we're going to bring in our inks. So we've got soft suede ink and we've got pumpkin pie ink. Those are the colors that we cut our shapes out of. So we're going to open up the pumpkin pie, and we're using a dauber. I like to label my daubers so I can use them in the same colors every time. And what I'm doing now is I'm just going to come in from the side and give a little bit of color to the edge here. And you could also do this type of technique. Do you remember doing that with sponges? You can do that sort of thing. Either way, but we are going to come even further into the pumpkin. So I just keep it right here. It's right here. It's just right here. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and come a little further in. And I'm going into the embossed areas for sure because I really want to show off that texture. So fun. Okay, let's do it with the soft suede color now. And I don't even know if this is the right dauber. I just grabbed it. I think it's the right one. It is now. That's what happens when you're in a hurry. But we're still doing well on the project. I don't think I've made any mistakes yet. Actually, I have, but I've edited them out. Okay, so now we're going to move on to assembling the card. So let's take and start with this piece here. We're going to add this to this layer, but we're going to use dimensionals because, I mean, you could do it this way too. If you wanted to flatten it out and have it straight against, you could do that. You'd see that glitz like that, but then if you pull it out this way, it's almost like the glitz is a little bit more subtle. So we're going to put some dimensionals on the back side, one in each corner, and then because I want to make sure that the pumpkin stays, that this layer stays away from dipping into the middle, I'm also going to cut some narrower ones here. I'm just going to cut into the side and put one here, which will help lift this area up. We're going to put one here. And then let's do a couple more here. Yes, the sides of your dimensional sheets are so great to use, especially if you need thinner ones. Okay, and this will get set right on top of the purple so that we have just a sliver of that purple Highland Heather color showing through on all the sides. Okay, this will get layered now onto the front of our card, so I'm just going to use seal adhesive for that. Also check before you layer this to make sure that this is the front, this is the back. Do you see how that has just like kind of a, you can see both layers, right? I like to have that on the back so that our longer layer is on the front of the card. Center this. This piece can go on the inside. So for the centerpiece, you can either leave that out or you can add it. I'm actually going to add it. I'm going to use my seal adhesive for this. You could use glue dots. You could use the Seal Plus adhesive or tear and tape adhesive. I just added lots of layers here. It's a very sticky tape. It's a lot different than our snail adhesive used to be. So there we go. I'm going to press that in there. On the card that I have finished, and I'll show that to you now. On the card that I have finished, I put it up on dimensionals, but I really like it indented because I did that on one of my other cards and I thought it looked pretty cool to have that difference there. So for the stem, you could either use seal or multi-purpose, or since we're going to be using glue dots, I've just pulled those out and I'm going to stick a glue dot and another glue dot onto the bottom front of the stem here. And that's going to allow me to just attach it to the pumpkin. And then we've got these little guys. I want to call them filigrees, but that's not what the pumpkin name is. Somebody shout it out, okay? All right. And then these can really go anywhere, honestly. You can put them however you want on your pumpkin. I might just stick it on like that because I kind of like that look. So we're going to use our multi-purpose liquid glue that I've transferred into this precision tip bottle just to get a little bit of glue out instead of a lot. There we go. So there's that. This is what it comes in, and it does have a tip, but I don't know, these bottles are nice. These bottles are so nice. I love transferring my glues into them. And then this one we'll just have coming down from the bottom here. So when I do this, I look to see where the connection is going to be made, and I can see it's going to be made on this little loop here. So I want to put my glue on the loop, and obviously on the back side of this one. And there's that. Now here's another thought. You can choose to put this up on dimensionals, or you can choose to have it lie flat. On my original card, I had it lying flat, but I think on this one I'm going to put up on dimensionals because I can do that. I can change it up, right? All right, so here's where one of my dimensionals sits on the card, is right in this spot. So I'm going to put one there, and I'm going to put one down here. And that way when I mail my card, I don't have tons of dimensionals stacked up making a really thick spot in my envelope. The only issue with putting your pumpkin up on dimensionals when you have it coming out like this is that this could get caught on stuff. So I'm just going to put a little dab of adhesive right at the tip and stick that down. All right. Then the last thing that we're going to do is we're going to add these bats. And I want these bats to come up just a tad, but I don't want them to be on dimensionals. First of all, they're really tiny. So we're going to take and do the rolling the glue dot trick. So you take a glue dot and you use your fingernail or the take your pick tool or something, you just roll it and it becomes narrower, and then when you pick it up on the back of one of the bat wings, you have a little bit of dimension there. It's sticking up higher. So we're going to do that with all of these glue dots. And on this larger one, I'm not doing that trick because the glue dot will fit on the back side of the wing. So I'm just sticking it up onto a couple glue dots to give it some lift. And there we go. So now we have bats that stand out a little bit more just because they've got a shadow around them as well. So it doesn't have a sentiment on the front. Feel free to do that if you want. I just really liked it with just the decoration. In person, it's so much better. I'm looking in the camera, I'm like, I don't know, it glitzes more in person. Okay, let me show you the other versions now. So I thought to myself, well, what if somebody doesn't celebrate Halloween? Which some people don't. And so I made a version that is more Thanksgiving-ish, just kind of harvesty, right? And this one does not have the multicolored glitter washi tape underneath. Instead, I took the glimmery look from our metallic specialty paper. And this paper comes in gold, very vanilla, which has kind of got an iridescent look to it. There's kind of like different color hues that come off the glitter there. And then this one is the evening evergreen color. So I use gold under this one. And this color here is early espresso. This color here, which is also on the inside, is crumb cake. Crumb cake is also the stem of the pumpkin on this one. This is the same color, pumpkin pie. And then I used garden green for the swirly whirlies. So for that, oops, where did it go? Oh, here it is. For the decorations here, I used the brushed metallic adhesive back dots. So instead of having bats on the card, I brought in just a few little dots to kind of emphasize and just kind of give it more fullness, because again, there's no sentiment on the front of the card. Cards don't have to have sentiments on the front. For the inside, instead of using stamps from the spooky stamp set that we were just showing you, I brought back in the Hello Harvest. And here I used You're Such a Blessing. You could do hello, wishing you the loveliest day. If you have a Thanksgiving stamp that you love using, you could use that instead. Now that You Are Such a Blessing can also carry over into a baby card. And pumpkins, I think of pumpkins with baby cards because I think little babies are called little pumpkins, right? So, so this card is the next one I made, the third one. And this one uses the very vanilla glimmer paper that's from that same pack that I just shared with you. This is very vanilla cardstock. There's no second layer of cardstock in here, so it's just very vanilla on very vanilla with no layer on the inside. The green color is Soft Succulent, which is also the color of this open weave ribbon that I've brought through here before adding the pumpkin. And then this is Soft Succulent cardstock here. So crumb cake, pumpkin pie, Soft Succulent, and very vanilla for the cardstock colors. So sweet, right? So you can really use that pumpkin die in so many different ways. You can use this fun die in so many different ways. In fact, here I've left off the center, right? Just lots of different uses for it. I want to introduce you to some envelopes too. I always forget to share envelopes. We have medium size, basic white, basic or the very vanilla. So you could have, you know, cards that go with your folded card, envelopes that go with your folded card bases. We also have these clear envelopes, and some post offices don't like them, but I've seen things come in the mail in clear packaging before, and you certainly have the right to mail them with clear packaging. They might just charge you a little bit extra. But what I would do is I would insert my card into my clear envelope. Takes a little bit more work, just have to warn you. So you put it in here, and then you can either have your addresses on the inside against the back side of the card. So you just put a return address label, a to address label here, or you can insert an extra piece of paper in there with the addresses on them. Or if they're really sticky and you're not afraid that they would come off, you can put them on the outside of the envelope. This here can seal shut. And then you can put your stamp. You have to put your stamp, of course, on the outside. And when it mails, it goes through the mail showing off your beautiful creative paper crafting card. So hope you like that idea if you haven't used that idea yet. So if you're interested in any of these products, you can purchase them directly from me through the online store. You just go to my blog at stampyourartout.com and click on the shop tab. You can also click in the description of the video and you'll be able to access links to all of those products. Or you can click on my blog post, which is also in the description of the video. If you're on my blog, you can scroll down and you can see the visual supply list there. Also, if you are not on my blog, you'll be able to see photos of these projects. So you'll want to click around, check it all out. If you are a demonstrator yourself, purchase from yourself. If you already have a demonstrator, purchase from them, share the love. Thank you so much for joining me. Please give me the thumbs up. Click on my little buttons there so that you can subscribe to my channel if you haven't already done so. Thanks for leaving a comment as well. And I will see you next week. In the meantime, I'd like you all to go and stamp your art out. Bye-bye.